this is a big question we get a lot is, what appliances do I buy? What appliances do I not buy? So in this video, we're going to talk about don't buy these appliances. Now, can we get started first? Because I know everybody wants to know. Do they buy the air fryer ovens? Is that really worth it or not?
Well, I feel putting that extra price tag on them is kind of gimmicky.
Is it?
Yeah, you can buy the special pans to go in for air frying.
You can just buy a special pan for a regular oven?
Right, a special air fry pan, and that's usually the case. They run different convection fan speeds that they'll put in there saying it's an air fry option.
Okay.
But the running joke amongst appliance repair is the last year's 400-degree convection bake is this year's 400-degree air fry.
Air fry. Yeah. So it's just a convection oven is all it is?
More or less is. There might be some quick hotter flashes of temperature control in programming. But really, if you buy the air bake rack or pan with that allows that air to move in between on both sides of the food, the air bake option is just as good on your convection.
So if you have a regular oven, can you just buy that special pan and it'll work?
Yeah. Usually the pan does not come with those ones that are labeled air bake anyway, or air fry. You
have
to buy a pan anyway.
Okay, so guys, I'm going to look that up and see if I can find one. And if I do, I'm going to put a link in the description below, because I would love that.
Yeah.
Because I don't really like our little air fryer very well, because it
limited size.
Yeah, you just can't do really that much with it. But I mean, it's okay for one or two items, or if you're single or something, it's fine.
A couple of mozzarella sticks.
Okay, so next, this is the big one. What appliances do you stay away from?
It is a big one.
Any brands that are a no-go? I'm getting ready to order appliances, so I really need this. So what brands do we stay away from? Well,
almost to sound patriotic, I suppose, kind of stick with American-made or avoid the non-American stuff. The biggest one that I shy away from is GE stuff. And that is, if you look at the GE insignia on a parts box or something, it says a hire company underneath it. That is a China-owned company. They bought it a few years ago. And they basically announced that they weren't going to do appliance development from that point forward. They got rid of the light bulb division and kept the same designs as were always used by GE or were in existence 5 years ago. And they've made some software changes and firmware changes, but that's about it. They are getting a higher percentage of plastic parts. They're almost hard graining a planned obsolescence into these GE appliances.
So they're planning for them to break down.
Absolutely.
That keeps you in business.
Yeah, it does, but we get tired of the same problem always.
Yeah.
When my service manager can diagnose it over the phone for a customer long before we ever get there, it's the same problems over and over and over.
So GEs are the most problematic?
I think they are, yeah. And they're the most expensive to buy parts for once they break down. But I see these new units leaving people high and dry all the time. The dishwashers, they don't wash worth a darn right from the factory. The washing machines, they break down, they don't wash properly, or their pumps are bad, or their doors are warped so they don't hit the switches and make them operate. There's all kinds of problems with them. There's also a number of things that don't have part numbers with GEs. So if you have, what I see is I do warranty work for some of the big name companies out here, and there'll be like a semi-load of Hotpoint or GE washing machines or dryers that are brought in, and somebody with a forklift damaged one of those units externally. An aesthetics problem, it might be still working, but there isn't a part number for the cabinet, and it's totaled right there on the spot because they can't replace the damaged part and they don't want to sell it damaged. So it's a complete wash. It's totaled right there on the spot.
Is there anything else? I think you were telling me Samsung's not that great when you were talking about...
Samsung isn't that great. They're rough because they don't like servicemen who aren't dedicated to them. So if you were to have a Samsung appliance breakdown here under warranty standing, you would have to fly in
somebody fix it.
To get an actual warranty repair on that. And that's where so many people really turn their noses up. I don't want to fly in a technician from Denver to get my fridge fixed scenario.
Oh, my.
So then they are hard to get parts for. There's oftentimes where I'll go to fix one and I will ask the customer to call Samsung and say, this is the part number, I need this sent to me. And they can get the part easier than I can because Samsung doesn't like me working on other name brands. The other one is LG.
That was my next question. I was wondering about
I tread kind of lightly on LG because
they're so cheap.
Some of them are, yeah.
Or
there is some LG stuff that I like.
Okay.
What I don't like is warranty handling. From my angle, they've been a little rough to deal with.
Okay.
For the customer, I think they do fine, as long as you're in warranty period. You get a day past warranty, you're done. Same with GE.
Okay.
GE is going to give you the most trouble. You must clear a warranty call with them first. You can't have me come and fix it and then expect to get it paid. They won't work that way at all.
So if your refrigerator dies and it's a GE, you have to call GE first.
Yes. And then wait for them
to dispatch wait for
me.
Them.
Yeah.
Oh, how long does it take for them to get people out?
It varies. There's it can be same day. Sometimes we'll get the dispatch. Sometimes it'll be 2 weeks.
Oh my!
And if you don't go through the exact hoops that they have laid out, they won't pay it.
Okay.
LG can get sticky, although they're fair. You know, they'll let us take care of some warranty stuff. What I run into is, once again, parts availability. If it's not available from back east, you're going to be waiting a while.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, well, I just kind of mentioned it at the beginning, but we're in Wyoming, so we're not rural Wyoming, but we're pretty close. Right. And so some things, when we say back east, you know, you got to get them flown in because it's not here, or we have to go, 5 hours to Denver or whatever. But okay, so are there any other? So GE and LG and Samsung probably stay away in a general rule.
Yeah.
As far as repairs of that type, is there anything else that's particular that stands out that you should stay away from or watch out for when you're buying appliances?
The other companies that are under those same names. So they own other companies as well. Like Samsung has a high end that they call Thor, and Thor is almost a balance between luxury and commercial. So you can get like a 48-inch 12-burner, crazy nice range, and you can't get any service done on it. Yeah, I had one out at Lighter that broke down, and it broke down right away, and they couldn't get it worked on for months. I finally took care of it for them and got it all fixed. So then with LG, their mother company or sister company, however you want to look at it, is called Gold Star. So Korea wanted a company that was more marketable to the United States, so they came up with this Lucky Gold Star. That's what LG stands for.
Oh, it is?
It's not life's good. It's
I didn't
sometimes
know that.
we say life's gruesome, but it stands for Lucky Gold Star. It's the sister company.
I didn't know that.
GE is even bigger. So under Hire, which Hire was available previously, you have GE and Hotpoint, Monogram, and Cafe is the high-end line.
Oh, I didn't know all those were the same company?
Yeah, they're all the same company. The only thing that's not the same company is GE light bulbs. They're American-owned and made right on the Edison floor. Everything else GE is complete. Well, like I said earlier, trying to be patriotic.
Yeah.
They're all communist China. They're sweating out kids to bring you a cheap product that they're going to charge you top end for.
And then if it breaks down, you just have to buy a new one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, more or less, because the printed circuit boards that go out in the GEs go out so often that they're always on back order. So you're always waiting for those printed circuit boards.
Well, now with this whole thing going around the last 3 years now, is it even worse? Was it before that? Okay.
It was worse for a while. It's a little bit more par again, I suppose.
So it's kind of caught up.
Yeah. The big no-fly zone for me is the GEs and the Samsungs. There's one problem after another with the Samsungs, and they haven't changed them. If you buy a Samsung refrigerator with an ice maker today, it is the same exact ice maker problem as was 5 years ago. A Samsung dryer has the same components that today that the first ones did 15 years ago.
Okay.
I carry the same parts for every Samsung dryer and every Samsung top-load washer.
Yeah, I wish I would have known that 3 years ago when I got my dryer. Because I did that and I had no idea, and we were desperate, at the time.
Well, usually it is desperation. And refrigeration is even worse.
Oh, yeah.
So many people, I don't know what it was, but refrigerators just started going down left and right in the middle of the pandemic, and they bought what they could get their hands on.
Yeah.
And that does kind of spur a thought while we're on the topic of don't buy. I dance tenderly around the name Kenmore. Kenmore is not a manufacturer, it is a label.
Yeah.
So Kenmore goes to 5 different companies and they say, we want this manufacturer to this spec. And Whirlpool will step up, LG will step up, Samsung will step up, Bosch will step up, and they all look about the same. But underneath is where you're going to start running into some of the problems that go back to the original original manufacturer. With that said, you can end up with a GE-built Kenmore or an LG-built Kenmore, and you will have the exact same problems as the counterpart with the name brand on it.
I'm telling you, I hated them. Our last house, I'm not exaggerating, we went through 15 Kenmore appliances in like 3 years.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we did we do 4 or I don't know, some huge number of dishwashers alone. And we were like, you know what? We're not buying any more Kenmore at all. We did 3 refrigerators in 3 years.
Right.
It was crazy. And it was under warranty, all of this stuff, but it was such a hassle that it was not worth any savings. Now, the builder put it in our old house, but I don't know. I would not touch Kenmore with a 10-foot pole if it was me.
So. Well, the model number on Kenmore tells you who made it, and by far worse than the GE, the LG, the Samsung, anything. There is Model 111 Kenmores are made by. They've changed it now. It used to be Daewoo, and then it was Shin Daewoo, and now it's like Winna Daewoo or something like that. And that is without a doubt the cheapest made Kenmore appliance that has ever hit the face of the earth.
Really? So look for that model number and you'll know not to get that one for sure.
You just open up the door on the refrigerator and look at that silver sticker, and if it's 111 point whatever, the first 3 is called the manufacturer code on a Kenmore. And if it's 111, don't even... Just back away slowly and throw chocolate.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm looking and a refrigerator's $2,000.
Exactly.
And I'm sitting here thinking, you've got to be kidding me.
Right.
So that's good to know because you don't want to drop $2,000 on a refrigerator and have it die in 6 months. So
that's where Kenmore is frustrating if you go to the showroom because you see 3 side-by-side refrigerators with a bottom drawer freezer and every one of them are from a different maker, but they all look alike because they're all Kenmore.
Yeah.
So you'll have the Kenmore Elite might be the LG refrigerator, which is one of the more cringy in my books. And then right beside it, you'll have a Whirlpool and a Shin Daewoo. And you pay $2,000 for an $800 Shin Daewoo.
Yeah.
You pay $2,000 for a $2,000 Whirlpool built, or you pay something astronomical and don't get the quality.
Yeah. So, okay. So... Oh, go ahead.
The Kenmore stuff can be cringy or it can be really good quality.
Yeah, I have
it's
not...
like a box of chocolates.
Yeah.
Analogy,
My chocolates were all spoiled with Kenmore. It was not good. Okay, so my next question is on refrigerators between the side-by-side and the French doors with the bottom freezer and the bottom freezer and top fridge. Is there any that really you should just stay away from that really are not... good? They don't work very well. I know you said that ice makers in general, really, I know everybody loves their ice makers, but you were telling me before, those are one of the first things that fail. Is there anything aside from the ice makers or like the style, is there one that's better than the other or?
You know, I think the style itself comes down to preference.
Okay.
You have your garage refrigerator, as they call them, the avalanche style, with the top mount freezer and everything attacks you when you open the door. You have the bottom mount freezer, single door, or the bottom mount freezer with the French door. Every one of them has their pros and cons. Knowing that cold air falls, the convective design of a top mount freezer is, physics says that's your more reliable. You have a single fan that moves everything. It's a simplistic design. Okay. You have possibly an ice maker built into the freezer and it dumps into a tray in the freezer. I like that. Where I run into problems, number one is ice makers. Number two is dispensers. Yeah. So I always discourage, I always discourage dispensers in the door. An ice maker in the door is even worse because you have possibly electronics right there in the door for your dispenser, maybe even touch panel controls. Your ice maker is right there. It's going to melt and possibly short out the electronics. So when I do a recommendation on a refrigerator, I say, don't do the GE and don't do the LG because they'll leave you high and dry. But avoid the ones with dispensers in the door, just because you're doing away with a whole handful of problems that will never pop up if they're not there. Yeah.
Every single fridge that has failed, it's been the ice maker. And it's always been a mess. It leaves water all over the floor because the ice doesn't stay in there or the ice melts for whatever reason. And that has always been our number one problem. As a matter of fact, our next fridge, we're not even getting an ice maker in the door. Yeah. We'll get an ice maker if it goes inside the freezer, but not in the door. I'm like, you know what? I'm done with that. I'm tired of cleaning up ice off the floor. Right. Absolutely. Drives me nuts. Yeah. Where it seems like all we have to do is just keep towels on the floor, mopping up water all the time. So, yeah. Okay.
Well, I personally like the ice maker built in the freezer. That way you know that it's right there. It's going into a tray. It's simple. Yep. If I have an ice maker failure in one of those, I loosen 2 screws, take one out and unplug it and replace it with a new one and away we go. It's pretty fast.
That's good to know.
The other styles in your question, we can also talk about with the maintenance angle. But there's always things to be cognizant of with these different designs. Always, a torn gasket is going to lead to problems down the road. So you want to make sure that you're not leaving a door open or have a torn gasket. French door designs are going to have much greater gasket surface area. Your top mount freezer or bottom mount freezer are going to be, just 2 basic gaskets. Yeah. And a side-by-side is 2 monster gaskets. I personally don't like working on side-by-sides as much. There was one called a side-by-wide. The door was shaped like that. So you had a wide top fridge, narrow bottom fridge, wide bottom freezer, narrow top freezer, and they were all right to work on. Okay. It's just an odd-shaped door. Yeah. But
I never heard of that one.
Yeah, they're an interesting design. I haven't seen one in a while. Okay. But traditionally, the side-by-sides are a little harder to work on just because you're in there like this trying to work in the freezer where the magic happens.
Yeah, and that takes longer too, so you're spending more time doing it too. So, all right, so you were telling me to get the simplest refrigerator, whatever appliance that we can, not the smart. Now it's so cool being able to touch the door and seeing what's in there, but you're saying don't do that?
Yeah, the smart enabled stuff is more electronics that can go wrong. I've been to many service calls for Wi-Fi receiver boards and Wi-Fi antennas that have failed. The best Wi-Fi or smart option I've seen is an oven you can preheat from your phone when you're headed home to bake that DiGiorno, But the only...
I would think by the time you change your clothes, your oven would just be preheated.
It's absolutely. Okay. But the smart stuff is just more to break down. And then oftentimes they're laced together with touch screens, capacitive touch panels that are more prone to go out. Warpage from heat. The less electronics around the oven area, the better. So it's just better to avoid that scenario altogether if you can. More simplistic, just like avoiding the ice maker in the door or the dispenser in the door. You're doing away with more of those problematic points by not having those smart options.
That makes sense.
Right.
Okay, so the other thing was all the bells and whistles break. So what would you consider bells and whistles that people think they have to have, but really they break a lot? What would be an example of that?
Let's see here. What is the most common one that I see?
Aside from the computer board, that would probably be the number one, I would think, from what you're saying.
It just about is, yeah. That's your number one thing. Your dispensers on them, the touch panels and the big digital readouts and the things that are susceptible to moisture. So I deal with, there were some refrigerators that had your touch panel right there at the dispenser, and then the ice would leak, and there was another panel down here, a user interface down here. So it would leak and short that out and end up shorting the entire system.
Do engineers really, do they use refrigerators?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to wonder because it's just common sense.
Right.
But I don't know. Yeah, I could see the panels breaking on that. Okay, so you were telling me top-loading washing machines aren't the way to go anymore.
Right. They're not all they're up to be. They've detuned them so much because of government restrictions on energy consumption, and they have gone to cheaper and cheaper products. You know, your old washing machines used to take a tremendous amount of water volume, and they had good action in there that would wash the clothes heavily. They had suspension or support from underneath. The new ones, they're rods and springs hanging there. So the more weight you put in them, the more they sag and get bent up. And, you know, they're doing away with agitators on a lot of these. The wash plate is great for a tiny, delicate load, but it doesn't do larger loads worth darn. And when you have a top load washer that can only handle the weight of about 8 towels with a little bit of water, it's not very effective.
Yeah.
So your front load washing machine is going to be the better bang for your buck.
Okay.
Now you can go a cut above. There's Speed Queen top loaders that they just kind of thumbed their nose at the HE stuff and said, we're going to make a quality product. It's all steel. It takes 2 people to move it, and it uses a lot of water and a lot of power. So, you know, if you're okay with that consumption, the Speed Queen top loader is about the best one on the market anymore for a top load. Everything else is way below par.
Okay.
So unfortunately, we're coming down to front loaders, although they're doing better with not molding, not stinking. So they're a little better to work with.
Yeah. You're
not going to beat the action of a front loader. So don't buy the top loaders anymore. It's a losing game.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, guys. Check out our next videos. We're going to be talking about which appliances to buy and how to maintain your appliances. Actually, he told me a tip that people do all the time that breaks their appliances almost more than anything. So be watching for those videos. Please visit us at livingonadime.com. We will see you guys next time.